Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Ivy and I'm a makeup artist, YouTuber and content creator based in Asaba Delta State, Nigeria. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the face brushes and tool I use to apply face makeup. Now, if this is a content you would like to see, then please keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe. Welcome back guys. So for my face makeup, I have a lot of brushes that I use. I just managed to streamline them into this ones. There are some I have them in multiples, like I have some like in multiples, and there are some I have in different brands that have like similar shapes. Okay, so I'm going to start in the order in which I would typically apply my face makeup. Okay, now when I typically will start my makeup with a face primer, and most of the time, like 70% of the time, I'm making use of my fingers just to apply and rub in my face primer. But if for some reason I'm not doing that, then you will catch me making use of this brush right here. Now this is the Vicabel NK03 brush and it looks just like this. Now this brush looks like a paddle brush. It's tapered in right here at the ferrule. It's flat, fluffy, wide enough to apply and blend in that face primer very well. So this on my fingers are what I use to apply my face primer. And then after face primer, the next thing I would typically apply would be my foundation. And for foundation, I use one of these two brushes right here. Now this is my favorite of them all because it's a foundation brush, but it is quite huge. And in fact, there is one other brush I recently came across. I'm going to add that into this video because I have been using this brush non-stop since I got it. Okay, so let me just hold the three right here in my hands and start. You will see a a similarity between these three brushes. I generally like, because I used to have problem skin, I generally like to apply my foundation in a stippling motion, not in a buffing motion. So these brushes are the brushes I use for that. Okay, the first one is the Juvias Place foundation brush and it looks just like this. It's quite wide, you can see it's quite wide, so you can cover up a large part of my face at a time. It's a bit slanted, a little bit slanted going upwards, and the bristles are just so soft, and when I apply my foundation in a stippling motion, it just does a very good work. The next brush is this brush from Sigma, and this is the Sigma Flat Kabuki F80 brush, which looks just like this. Now I've owned this brush for the longest time and it's beginning to shed a bit, but it's still going strong for me. This is a flat topped Kabuki brush, not as wide as the Juvia's Place one, but still wide enough that I can use it to apply my foundation without wasting so much time. And the last brush I have here is from a Nigerian brand called Vicabel, and this is the Vicabel NK41 brush. Can you see how huge? Like, this brush is competing with the Juvia's Place one. I even feel like it's a bit wider, a little bit wider than the Juvia's Place one. Or like, this brush, foundation brush, is so soft, so soft, and look how huge it is. Like, it just stipples on foundation easily, and then I use the edge to blend around my nose. It's just perfection. Now I use these brushes because I do my base, that is my face makeup first before I go into the eye, apply my eyebrow and all of that. That is why I use this brush. But if you're the kind of person who does your eye makeup before your face, I don't know, these brushes might be too wide because I don't have to bother like going around the brows. You can still use them though and all of that because I'm applying it like on bare skin without anything hindering it. So that's why I love huge brushes like this. These are the three brushes I use for my foundation. And then I have this brush which I use for like skin tints and really lightweight foundations, like my Avon Ideal Nude foundation, those very liquidy foundation, my Fenty Ease Drop and all of that. You can see this brush, it's a bit pinched in right here at the ferrule, it's a bit slanted, and it looks, can you see, it looks so soft, and the shape it has really helps me to apply the makeup and blend without wasting time, without much stress. And this is the Vicabel NK44 brush. And then I have something similar from another Nigerian brand. These are both from Nigerian brands. And this second one is the Face Glam Beauty Face Spark YF20 brush. And these are the two brushes I use to apply my more liquidy foundations, skin tints and BB creams. BB cream still a thing. And then I have this brush. It's just if you watched my favorite eye brushes, there is a brush I use to clean up underneath my eyebrow. I mentioned in that brush. This is like a daddy of that brush, or an elder brother of it. I use, can you see, it's quite small, quite dense, very soft, not a bit fluffy, not so fluffy, it's a bit dense. I use this to apply color corrector underneath my eye. It just fits into that space so well. I just put like a dot of my orange color corrector and use this to like buff it in really well, and it just covers. Like if I have spots on my face, I use it as well to like color correct those places, just stipple. And this is NK21 brush, in case I haven't already said that. And then to cream contour, I like to cream contour from time to time. It usually comes in phases. There are phases where I cream contour all the time, and there are phases where I couldn't be bothered. But during those phases where I cream contour, and you always see me reach for this shade, this brush with this purple handle, and this is the Royal Enhanced Contour brush, and it's like a dense brush. You can see pinched in right here at the ferrule. It's a bit slanted, it has like dual fiber, and it's just the perfect size to go into this contour area and blend out the cream contour. Now I generally do not use this for powder contour because it's not the bristles are not long enough to have that much give. I generally like in my contour brushes, but for blending cream products, this brush is just perfection. Now, to sweep out the powder from underneath my eye, you would typically see me use this brush. I also used to use one from, what brand is that? Morphe. The Morphe M438. I'll just put up the name of the Morphe brush right here. And I use this brush or this one from Zaron Cosmetics to dust up powder from underneath my eye, like when I set my concealer and I bake, because I always love to bake. There's this look that baking gives that I just can't set my face and leave it like that. I know it's a trend, but I just can't do that. I always have to bake. So I use any of these brushes to sweep out that powder from underneath my eye. And the first brush I have here is the Vicabel NK6 brush, and it's just like an animal hair bristle, really small, fits right into the under eye beautifully well. And this is the Zaron multitasking brush, dual fiber brush that just does a wonderful job sweeping out powder without moving the product underneath. These two brushes right here have different shapes. I will explain why in a bit. And these are my powder brushes. Now this first one is the Morphe E58 powder brush, and it looks just like this. Can you notice a trend? I like to pat on and press in my powder. I don't just like to apply and rub like that. I like to press it in. And this Morphe If brush, you can notice, has like that slanted, it's pinched in right here, and it has that slanted bristle. Can you see? It's going this way upwards. You know, that foundation brush I showed you earlier, it's almost like a bigger version of it, but it's more fluffy, and it was made to be a powder brush. So I use this to press in powder on my skin, just my pressed powder, and it works really well. And the second brush is this Vicabel NK2 brush. I own about 6 of this brush because I love it that much. Now you can see that this brush tapered to a tip. Real Techniques used to have a brush like this, the Real Techniques blush brush, but that Real Techniques blush brush is not as dense as this one is. This one is quite dense and full, and I just love to use this to apply my face powder. You can see I can just tap it into the powder and press on my skin, and then lightly just like, you know, swirl around. And I like to use this brush a lot because when I'm done with my applying all my face makeup, I like to just tap this into my face powder and just kind of use the tip lightly without even having any pressure on my skin, just to buff everything on my face together, blend everything in so that the highlight, the blue, but everything just sweeps into each other, everything just blends into each other better, if that makes any sense. So these are the 2 brushes that I make use of for powder. The next brushes I make use of are these 2 brushes right here, and I use these brushes to contour and to bronze. You would always see me reach for either of these brushes. This brush is from W7, and I got this brush a couple of years ago when I wanted to get the W7 banana loose dream banana powder, I think, and I just threw this into the cart. They were having a sale, and I wish I had gotten 2 of this brush because I haven't been able to lay my hands on this brush again. Now you can see it's an angled brush, pinched in right here at the ferrule, quite fluffy, just the exact size and fluffiness I require when I'm applying my contour or my bronzer. I use this to just pat in my contour and blend it out. And the second one is almost similar to that one, just is a bit, the bristles are a bit longer, but it's a similar shape, a similar size and everything. And this is the Vicabel NK45 brush. I intend to get another one of this brush because I just hope to sell it in the single, because this brush has been doing a whole lot. So I use that as well to apply my contour and blend everything out. At times as well, I also use the same brush because I really don't like shimmery blushes. I beg your pardon, today's today. I typically don't use shimmery blushes. I always use matte blushes. So most times when I'm done contouring, I just use the same brushes to, you know, apply my blush. But on days when I don't do that, the brush I use to apply my blush is this brush right here. It's a small brush, a bit tapered to a tip. It's wide all the way around, and you can see this in comparison to that powder brush I showed you earlier. You can see it's quite smaller. I like my blush brushes to be small because I like precise placement of my blush, and this is the Y Glam Beauty Face Expert YF70 brush. This is literally the only blush brush I use if I'm not using any of these 2 brushes for my blush application. And then we go into highlight. Now there was a time when we could use any size of brush for highlight, but personally for me, I like really small brushes, those blending brushes. This is like a typical blending brush, but I can't use it for blending brush for my eye shape, so I repurposed it for highlighting. I generally like to use brushes like this, the animal hair, and in contrast to using like synthetic brushes, I just dip. You can see the size, it's not so big, it's just like the size of your blending brush you would use for your apply your transition color. I use this to apply highlight on the highest part of my cheekbones, because once again I like precise placement. I apply highlight on the bridge of my nose, on my forehead, and thereabouts. I have about 3 of this brush. I use a lot. There's another brush I used to use from Morphe, the Morphe M330 brush. That one is also really nice for applying highlight on the highest points of the cheekbones. And then the final brush I have is this brush also from Morphe, and this is the Morphe M572 brush, and it looks just like this. And this is the brush I use to apply my nose contour. You can see it is pinched in right here at the ferrule. It's quite small. It has a flat surface, straight cut right over the top, but the size of it, the fit is just perfect to contour the nose. Just place and contour the nose. Now there is another brush I used to reach for my nose contour. It's so dirty because I used it. I think I used this brush today. I had to wash all these brushes because I have multiples of them, so I beg your pardon for this. This is the Glam Beauty Face Expert YF60 brush. Sorry, let's go back to this Morphe brush. I don't know if I told you the name. This is the Morphe M572 brush, in case I didn't already. And this is the Glam Beauty Face Expert YF60 brush. Once again, this brush has like a slant to it. Can you see? It has like a slant going upwards like this, and the width or the length of it is just the exact size and length for nose contour, and that is what I use to contour my nose, either of these two. If I'm not reaching for this, I'm reaching for this one. And then I decided to add tools, because tools are very important. Now the very first tool I use all the time is this blending sponge right here. This shape of blending sponge, this brand of blending sponge. Now this blending sponge is from a Nigerian brand called GD Beauty, and you can see the shape of the sponge. It has a pointed tip right here, and it has this cut right here that slants upwards to a blunt cut right here. Now I use this sponge to blend out concealer from underneath my eye. I use it to set underneath my eye with my setting powder. I use it like this way to apply foundation at times, and then I use it to neaten up underneath my contour. That blunt cut is just perfect to neaten up underneath your contour without stress. And then the final product we have is this one right here, and this is a generic puff, a triangle puff that I use to set underneath my eye with powder. Some days I may just use the beauty blender for everything, or the beauty sponge for everything, but on days when I don't use the beauty sponge for everything, I make use of this small puff. And don't sleep on this puff. This puff does wonders. I just use this to set underneath my eye and to bake as well. So there you have it, guys. These are like the face brushes and tools that I use whenever I'm doing my makeup look. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for staying tuned to the end, and until I come your way again next week, remain blessed. Bye guys.